Very well. Moving forward, you talk about clean water. Clean water is good for health. Nigeria is talking about the water bill in the National Assembly. They've called for information. The presidency is talking about the water bill. Some former governors, existing governors are talking about, wait a minute, you cannot take away our water and then make it your federal. And then how far, how wide is the boundary of the water? What's your understanding about this water bill? Why not land bill?
It's a concerning piece of legislation because once again there has not been proper consultation. There are aspects of it which one can understand, that water is now a valuable and scarce resource. It is a resource that is not evenly distributed across all those who have an interest in using it. There are areas of the country that are water deficient. There are other areas of the country that have floods and water surplus. If Nigeria was run on a fair basis, on an equitable basis, people will have less concern about a piece of legislation that then comes in and says all the surface water in the country and the underground water as well now belongs to the federal government. The federal government, and this administration in particular, has shown that it is no respecter of the principles of federation. And one of the key requirements of a federal arrangement is balance and equity as between the member units. We see it in the way appointments to major political offices across the country have been allowed to be dominated by, in particular, one ethnic group, the Fulani ethnic group, out of the 371. It naturally raises a concern amongst everybody else to say, well, if you're doing that with political opportunities and political positions, such that all the security posts in the country are dominated by that ethnic group, you're now saying that the water resources of the country, you will hold it on trust. On trust for who? People are asking. Is it on trust for the same people that you've been advantaging and preferring in all the appointments, or the interests of everybody? Trust in the government has broken down. And in those circumstances, introducing a piece of legislation which would make sense if we were truly one people and if we treated ourselves as one people. So, for example, in England, where they regard themselves as one people, you can begin to understand that a law might come in and say all the surface waters in England belong to Her Majesty the Queen, holding it on trust for everybody else. But you know what? They don't even do that in their own legislation. I checked their legislation, their Water Resources Act. It does not attempt to do that, to vest the ownership of not just the rivers, as in our case, is actually the adjoining land. So does that mean that the beach fronts of the Atlantic, which belong to the coastal peoples of Nigeria, does that mean it now belongs to the federal government of General Buhari to hold on trust? Well, the tragedy of 2 points. First, if we were one nation, but of course we're not. And the best parallel or the nearest equivalent to our arrangement is the European Union. And in fact, if you look at that water resources bill, our water resources bill, the 2016 version, which is one that's circulating, you will see at the bottom of the front page that the bill is supported by the European Union. Now, that raises a point of embarrassment for the European Union because they've clearly lost sight of the political reality of Nigeria. Because when you look at the equivalent provision for the European Union itself, their own one, they do not say that all the rivers and the banks of the rivers running through the European Union area belong to the government in Brussels. They don't do that. They know that the waters that belong to Germany are German waters. The waters that belong to France are French waters. And what they do, consistent with the principle of confederation, which is a first cousin to federation, consistent with that, they simply create a framework legislation and say, this is the objective we want to do, to achieve. We want to have clean water. We want to have, in the event of an emergency, we want to be able to make water available to the areas that need water. Go away and draft your own regulations in order to meet that objective. We're not going to do it at the center. So if this government, the Buhari government, have been sincere in the measure that it's seeking to push through, consistent with the principle of federation, what it should have done is say to each of the state governments, this is the objective we want to achieve. Go away and draft your legislation to achieve that objective. That's how federation works. And then the people have no reason to be alarmed and concerned that this is a backdoor mechanism to hijack the resources for the benefit of one ethnic